Across the world, massive structures stand empty and abandoned. They're relics of a forgotten past that have been left to decay. But all is not forgotten, because in today's video, we're going to explore 15 of the most massive of. Number 15, the power plant IM. In Little Charleroi in Belgium, in a quiet neighborhood, is one of the largest abandoned structures in Europe, Power Plant IM. This stone behemoth, once a coal-burning powerhouse, now looms over the landscape, its cooling structure no longer generating energy, but still managing to generate plenty of onlookers. It was constructed in 1921 during an era when coal was king. When it was fully operational, it was among the largest of its kind in Belgium, providing energy to the entire region. The most iconic part of this plant is the massive cooling tower, which once had the capacity to cool 480,000 gallons of water every minute. The way it worked was deceptively simple. Hot water was pumped into the tower and cooled history, slowly decaying but far from forgotten. The cooling tower, with its cavernous interior and towering height, has taken on a second life as a visual marvel, despite its rusting frame and cracked concrete. There is an undeniable beauty in the way that it merges the industrial might with nature's reclamation. Number 14, the Orgov Radio-Optical Telescope. The Orgov Radio-Optical Telescope, or ROT-54 for short, is a colossal relic of Soviet-era ambition. This 180-foot wide radio telescope was once at the forefront of scientific research and a shifting symbol of technological prowess. Today, it stands abandoned, a silent witness to a past era of astronomical discovery and competition among rivals. Construction of the telescope began in 1975 in Armenia during the Soviet Union's push to lead in space exploration and scientific advancements. The project took a decade to complete, with the telescope finally operational by 1986. Though an economic turmoil in the Soviet Union and its eventual collapse in the early 90s brought about challenges to the observatory. Operations here became intermittent after 1990. A brief resurgence of activity came in the mid-90s when some of the equipment was modernized, allowing the telescope to function sporadically until the early 2010s. Today, the telescope complex lies in a state of decay. The once state-of-the-art facility is now an industrial ghost town, with rusted machinery, crumbling concrete structures scattered across the hillsides, and the surrounding buildings, once filled with scientists, are now just silent and overtaken by encroaching vegetation. It is a strange juxtaposition, nature reclaiming a site that was once dedicated to exploring the farthest reaches of space. Number 13, Frying Pan Tower. So from a distance, Frying Pan Tower could easily be mistaken for an abandoned oil rig, its rusting metal frame rising above the waves in the middle of the ocean. But upon closer inspection, structure, making it a pretty harsh and unforgiving environment. But despite those challenges, the lighthouse remained a critical part of the region's maritime safety system. By the 1970s, technological advances had begun to change the landscape of lighthouse operation. Automated systems allowed the light to run without the need for a full-time crew, and by the late 1990s, Frying Pan Tower had been fully automated. Once Frying Pan Tower was abandoned, its future became uncertain. Several proposals were floated regarding what to do with the rusting platform, from demolishing it entirely to converting it into an artificial reef for marine life. However, dismantling such a large, remote structure would have been both dangerous and costly. The same conditions that made it difficult to live and work on the tower also made it nearly impossible to safely tear down. Number 12, Muromtseva Castle. So when it comes to abandoned structures, none have a more ironic history than the Muromtseva Castle. The story of the Russian castle is one of wealth, and the Russian purchased a large plot of land in the town and hired one of Russia's finest architects to design the castle. The result was a bizarre fusion of medieval, German, and French styles, an architectural anomaly in the Russian landscape. But nothing lasts forever, and with the onset of the Russian Revolution in the early 20th century, the Russian was forced to flee his beloved estate. His castle, too, fell victim to the upheaval. After the revolution, the estate was repurposed for practical uses. It became a college for a time, and during World War II it served as a hospital. Yet despite those new purposes, the building's slow decline had already begun. By the mid-20th century, this castle was abandoned. Left to the elements, its once elegant towers and turrets began to crumble, and nature gradually reclaimed the grounds. The floors had become treacherous, and vines now staked through the broken windows and cracked walls. Number 11, the Bagger 258. The Bagger 258, also known, now sits idle. Forgotten in a German field, its blue paint slowly chipping away in the elements. Bagger 258 was built for a task as monumental as its size. It stretches 563 feet in length and stands about 164 feet tall and weighs an incredible 3,800 tons. The bucket wheel alone is 41 feet in diameter, supported by a massive 220-foot-long boom arm, capable of reaching excavating heights up to 115 feet. Well, despite the size, Bagger 258 could not outrun time. After nearly 4 decades of service, it was retired in 2002. By then, the mine had run out of coal to extract, leaving the once unstoppable Bagger 258 with nothing more to dig. And unlike some other monumental machines that have been restored or turned into museums, Bagger 258 was left to decay in a field. Number 10. Gareja Ayam. Gareja Ayam, or the Chicken Church, is an abandoned and unusual Zen youth outreach. The church served as a symbol of unity and sanctuary for spiritual reflection, but its unconventional shape made it stand out as one of the oddest religious buildings in the world. But despite its lofty purpose, the construction of it was plagued by financial difficulties. By 2000, work had to be halted on the building, leaving it incomplete.